Mazel tov. We will get started. So we are on the top of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, and on Erev Shabbos we learned about.
Yes, what's the Wi-Fi?
I can't. Sorry.
Okay.
On Erev Shabbos we learned about Rabbat Halacha that Ein Oinus Begitten. The Gemara could not find the Makor, so the Gemara said it must be Rabbat's own svar. And his svar was because Tznuois and Prutzos. Tznuois were afraid that the husband will give a get that says that if I don't come back after 30 days, you're Mugureshes. And he won't come back, and she's Mugureshes. But she'll, such an Erlich girl, she'll be afraid that maybe there was an onion that I don't know about. And therefore I don't want to get married. So she'll become a Laguna. Prutzos were afraid he won't come back. We're afraid he won't come back because of an oinus, and they'll say it wasn't an oinus, and they're going to get married. For them to get bottle, ubanei mamzer, and that's where we got up to on the Erev Shabbos. So we're now on the fourth line on Daf Gimel Amud Aleph, the very last word. Frek the Gemara, umi ika midi the midaraisa loyla have a get. Midaraisa we say that the Tanai breaks the get because it's like he came back, and therefore she's not Meguresha, she's an Ashes Ish. Umishum Tznois, Umishum Prutzos, Sharina and Ashes Ish Lama. Because of Tznois and because of Prutzos, we're now going to be Mater and Ashes Ish. We're going to say something's a get, even though it's not a get, that's Mamash being Mater and Ashes Ish. Zokim we're in. Yeah, it's not a problem at all. Because Kol the Mekadesh, Adai to the Rabban Mekadesh. When someone made the Kedushin, it was Adai to the Rabban. Vafkin Rabban and the Kedushin, and the Rabban are Mafki the Kedushin. And Pasha the Pshat is, it's because the Kesef Kedushin that he gave, they were Mevatel, they made it Hefker. So Kum Techois, the Kesef, which he gave to Kedushin, was not a good Kedushin, because it was not his Kesef. Since it was not his Kesef, he never had a Kedushin. So it's Mevatel the Kedushin. Zog to Gemara, that works really, really well if he did Kedushin Kesef. Omar Le Rabbeinu Rabashi Teinach Kodesh B'Kaspa. That makes a lot of sense if he was Mekadesh with Kesef. But Kodesh B'Biyah, what if the Kedushin was with Biyah? There's no way to be mafker that. My Ikalamemar. What would you say then? Since when he makes a kedushin, he's the mekadosh a woman kadash Moshe Yisrael, they can say it's not kedushin, and therefore it comes to chayis that the bia was a biasnos. There's actually a shaila in the Rishonim how this works. Is it mevatel the kedushin lemafreya, or it's mevatel mikanu labo? What's the nafkamina? The nafkamina is if this woman was mezana through her marriage, and she had a child who would be a mamzer. If the kedushin is batel mafreya, it comes out that she was never married, and therefore the child's not a mamzer. So the Mefarshim say even if it's not a mamzer midaraisa, it's for sure a mamzer midarabanan. And someone told me that this is one of the methods that a certain Rabbanim who we probably wouldn't subscribe to their Piskei Halacha wanted to do to be Mater Mamzerim. He wanted to have them do things that would generate an Afkur Rabban Kedushim. For instance, we know there's a halacha, if someone sends a get to his wife, and then he's mevatel the get, there they say that Afkur Rabban Kedushim. So you can technically create a scenario where we have a halacha that Afkur Rabban Kedushim. So Oibezoy would be Machshir Memzeir. So that was very not Oiskahalten, but that's what somebody once wanted to be Mater. So that takes us to the end of the first Nusach.
Yosy,
Yes,
you have all these conservative and reformed Kedushin are not Kedushin Halacha. So all these kids are really not Mamzerim.
I mean, if the
They don't have a Kedushin. They don't have a Kedushin, they don't have a Gittin, they have nothing.
So it's interesting if a reformed couple comes to a Rav and wants to get married, should he marry them off? Or maybe it's better if they have a non-kosher kedusha. What would you say?
It depends if you want to be marber mamzerim or not.
So it's better not to marry them off, because at least then they won't be mamzerim.
Or if you make the marriage, you make it a puzzle of marriage. You make it that you take Edom that are not Shema Shabbos.
I hear. It's funny because one of the ways we learned by Kedusha Kesef is they would say Hefker Bez and Hefker, and it's not Kedusha Kesef. By one of my son-in-laws, the Messiah Kedushin was the Viyala Poiler Roof. And it's very typical that when the Chazan takes the ring, the ringel, the Messiah Kedushin asks, is it your ring? And the Chazan answers yes. And then they go on. But this time, the Viyala Poiler Roof asked him another question. Did you pay for it in full, or do you still owe money for it? So my Idim didn't know. He looks to his father, and his father says, I bought it for my brother. He trusts me. So the Ru said, no. They made his brother come up to the chippah right there. I'm not told he was there. I want you to pay him right now. And in front of everybody, you have to shell out the money, buy the dingle, and then the V'yalach Haruv let the Kedushin go on. Okay. So until now, we had the first nusach where Rava said, Einonis begin. Ikadamri, there was another nusach that said exactly the opposite. That quoted Rava as saying, Omer Rava v'chein legin. There is an Einonis legin, which means if the fellow didn't make it back in 30 days, but it was an Einonis, in fact, the get will not be a good get. Almakas of Rava yeshad begin. Now, I just want to clarify something. What exactly is the case that we're talking about? So we already learned that, let's say, a guy was coming back to be back on time so that his get wouldn't be a get. And he gets to the riverbed, and when he gets to the river, the bridge was broken, the ferry was broken, whatever it was, and he says, Chazuda asai, he's waving, I'm here, I don't want it to be a get. So they paskened over there that's considered a get. So the Gemara thought to bring a rye from there, that Einonis begin. The Gemara says it's not a rye from there, because it's such a common thing for someone to get stuck by the river that if he didn't want it to be a get under such a situation, that's something he should have spoken out. So we were discussing today that Amul, before COVID, if his flight was canceled, that would be an Einonis. Today, after COVID, where so many flights get canceled, it will be similar to that. If someone made a Tanai, Amunas, that the get's a get if I don't come back in 30 days, and then he's scheduled to come back and the flight gets canceled, then Avada would be a get. Because if he didn't want a canceled flight to cause the get to happen, he should have spoken that out. Because that's something that's a very realistic possibility. Anybody who books a ticket today knows that there's a very good chance that his flight's going to get delayed or canceled. But Avul, it would be a notice. So when we say Yesh Begitten, that's only something that you could not have anticipated. Something that you would have anticipated, that for sure it would be a get, because if it wouldn't be a get, you should have spoken it out that shouldn't cause me a problem. So now the Gemara takes Rava and quotes Rava saying exactly the opposite. Alma Kasavar Yesh Begitten. So now we're going to have a chazara of yesterday's Gemara. Because just like yesterday, we tried to bring rayas from several different places to Rava's halacha, and the Gemara slugged up those rayas. Now that we're saying Rava says the opposite, that Yeshua is beginning, we're going to bring now a kasha from all those same places. So we're going to have a real chazara of yesterday's Gemara. Meisvei, I'm going to bring a raya that ain't onis begin. Because if someone said a reza gita, im loy basimi kan v'atzenim mosach chodesh. If someone says this should be your get, it should be chal in 12 months if I don't return. And the person died, so he surely didn't return. And again, it's not a get. Why is it not a get? Because the person died, and the dead person can't give a get. And therefore, we're medayik. Meis hu ain't a get. It's davka meis. That's not a get. Hachala, but if he just got sick and that's why he didn't get back, I raise a get. Because otherwise, the bride should have had a bigger chiddush. The bride should have said chala ain't a get. It doesn't say that. It says dafka meis ain't a get. So vice the hois that if it was chala would be a get, meaning ein oinus begin. It's only because of mates ain't a get, because the mess can't give a get. So you have a raya ein oinus begin, which is shver on Rava, who in this nusach says yes oinus begin, and for the Gemara, like the Gemara said yesterday, really, yes oinus begin, and chala also wouldn't be a get. So why did the Bryce chap in the case of mace? If it could have happened a bigger chiddush that even chala is going to get, is the higuva kamash malon they ain't get lacher misa. The Bryce is trying to tell us halacha that you can't get lacher misa doesn't work. That's the halacha. For the Gemara, from this case in the Bryce, I don't need to learn that ain't get lacher misa because ain't get lacher misa hatana the reisha. The reisha says this case of someone said this should be a get after I die, and the Brisa says that's not a get. So that's where the Brisa tells us ain't get lachamisa. The chiddush of the second case has to be something else. My love, which the chiddush should be that ain't on his begin. So tomorrow, no, Dilma la fuki mi the Rabbi Seinu. The Rabbi Seinu argued on the Brisa, on the Tanakam of the Brisa. So the Tanakam of the Brisa says, Hareza gitach. That means I want the get to be chal in 12 months. And therefore, if the person dies before the 12 months, it can't be a good get because they get lachamisa. The Rabbi Shenu told us that since you wrote today's date in the get, the date that it was written, and today's date is not relevant. What's relevant is when the date of the get should be chal is. So since you wrote today's date on the get, it proves that what you really want is a get lemafreya, you want it to be chal at the time. So it says, if you said me'achshav, Zogan, the Tanakam in our Brisa said that no, we disagree with Rabbi Seinu, and we hold that the date in the get doesn't mean anything, and it's not considered me'achshav, and therefore it's a get lachamisa. Tashma. So let's go to the last case of the Brisa, where the person giving the get spoke out me'achshav. Me'achshav im leibasi mikan bat shnei masach chodesh. Umeis b'soich shnei masach chodesh. And the person died, then I raise a get. My love, who didn't lechol? It shouldn't make a difference if he died or if he was sick. And the oinus does not stop the get. And therefore, the get will be chal. So you have a raya once again you have a raya once again that ain't oinus beginning. So maybe meis dafka the nenicha lei the sipoel kamayovin. Maybe dafka the case of the brisa, where it was mace, there you say it'll still be a get. Why? Because the husband wants the get to be chal so that his almana shouldn't be subject to chalitza or yibum from his brother. Mashenkin, if it's chala, he doesn't want his wife to leave him just because he's sick. So there, maybe his kavanah is that he doesn't want the get to be chal. And once again, you don't have a raya that einon is begitten, could be you can hold yesh on his begitten. So, like the Gemara said yesterday, after we could no longer bring a raya to the shaila from a brisa, we tried to bring a raya to the shaila from a story in the Gemara. Me'ahuda amar lahu, a man told his wife, Eloi asina mikan bat shloishim yoim, if I'm not home within 30 days, lahava gito, should be a get. Also, b'soiv klosin yoimin. He came back at the end of 30 days, he was there, but he got stuck at customs. Upaskim avra. He got stuck, he couldn't get over the bridge. And he said, Lahu, to his wife, to the people, Chazuda asoy, I'm back. I don't want to get. Shmuel said, Loi shmei masyo, too bad. You're not here. And since you're not here, it's going to be a good get. So you have a raya here, Einan Begitten. So Kamar, no, the question that we're asking of Einan Begitten is something that he couldn't have anticipated. But unzu the shchir shining, it's very common for the ferry not to go, for the ferry to get stuck, for the bridge to break. So since that's very common, the kivin di boile lasnuye beloyasni, if he didn't want that to make the get, he should have spoken out that if I'm there, but there's a problem with the bridge and I can't get over, then I don't want to get. He didn't say that. Since he didn't say that, iuhu the avshan nafshe. But our shaila beinonish begitten is in the case where it's something that he couldn't have anticipated. Beautiful. So now we finished the sugya of Einis Begitten. Toisvis, this big Toisvis here, the last line of Toisvis says, the Hilchazak Kalish Nakamo de Rava Kidipirashnu. The halacha is Ein Einis Begitten. Zogt the Heilige Gemara weiter. Amar Rab Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Rab Shmuel bar Yitzchak told us, Lo shonu, this that we say that you're supposed to get married on a Wednesday is Elomita Kanes Ezra Be'elech, Shein Batei Dinim Kavun Elo B'Sheni U'B'Chameshi. Where the Batei Dinim only convene on Monday and Thursday, that's when the marriage has to be on Wednesday. Aval Kodim the Kanes Ezra, before the Kanes of Ezra, Shein Batei Dinim Kavun B'Chol Yoim, where Batei Dinim would convene every day of the week. Isha, this is B'Chol Yoim. A woman would have been able to get married any day. For Gemara, this is not a history lesson. This is a halacha shir. I don't need to know what the halacha was a long time ago. That's history. Kodim Takanis Ezra, might have. Whatever happened. It's not relevant anymore. So why would you be talking about it? The reason why we're talking about that is because in the future, such a scenario can also occur. If you'll find Batadinim that will be steady every day, well then in those places, as a matter of fact, Isha Nisis B'chol Yom, we would allow a woman to get married every day. I break in the Rishonim, is there not a rule that one Bezdin cannot undo the takana of an earlier Bezdin? Elam Kain Godol Mimenu B'chachma Ubeminyan. So how could they just say if times changed, we changed the Gzera? You can't just do that. We're right at the bottom of Daf Gimel Amud Aleph. How could you say that if times change, then the Gzera is over? You need a Bezdin. That's Godel B'chacham U'B'minyan, and you don't have that. So the Rosh Hashanah have different svaras. One svara is that lechatchila that takana was get married the night before Bezdin convenes. So that was the whole takana. So where they only convene Monday and Thursday, so then yeah, you have to get married on Wednesday. But where they convene any day, then you can get married any day. That's one approach. Another approach is that they said that we're only making the takana where there's in places where you convene Monday and Thursday. So there's different approaches to how we deal with this problem. Tosfos says even if Batei Dinim sat every day, still maybe Friday you shouldn't get married. And let's see Tosfos. It's a nice little Tosfos, the last Tosfos at the bottom of our Omid. Near Lari, the Michal Mokaim Ein Nisus B'Shishi. Even if there is Batei Dinim every day, Friday you shouldn't get married. So Ein Danim B'Shabbos, because on Shabbos you wouldn't be able to go to the Torah. Zok Tosfos Va'atanai Hagen Lisa Af B'Shishi. Our minig is to make weddings on Friday. I don't know if anyone remembers, a couple of years ago, Jerry Greenberg made a chasna on Friday in Beis Yaakov Sarna. It was a Friday wedding. The minig is to make Friday weddings. Zok Tosfos. Why? Because we don't have bezin kfun anyway. And therefore, if there is a problem, he can register a complaint in front of any three people, like any other day of the week. So, which is what we do, is we allow weddings on Friday. I think it was very common in Europe to have weddings Friday night, because anyway, there's a Suda. So they didn't make a special Suda. Okay, so let's see the Gemara weiter.
They didn't have to make a special food up for a Friday night.
I mean, that's why they made it Friday night.
Yeah.
Okay, so Dr. Gemara, did you forget? There's not only the reason of Bezdin. Remember we discussed if it's because of Bezdin get married on Sunday. And the Gemara said the reason why you get married on Wednesday is because you need 3 full days to prepare the meal. Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday. So how could you tell me that if Bezdin were Kavu every day, you can get married any day of the week? Haba'in and Shaktu, don't you need to prepare for the wedding? Dr. Gemara, you're right. It's speaking to Tariach Lei, which Rashi says, Im Tarach Lefnei Shabbos, V'tikin Tzarchei Suda. What if someone already started preparing Wednesday, Thursday, and he had everything prepared? So then, Koinza Ba'echad B'Shabbos or B'Sheni B'Shabbos, then you could get married earlier. I guess it wasn't common to do that. You would only start on a Sunday to prepare, but in the event that you taka prepared before, then you would be able to get married even on a Friday. Okay? Let's see, or not only a Friday, on Sunday, on Monday, on Tuesday, on any day. Okay, so let's turn over to Omid Beis. Okay, so to Gemara, My shaktu. Where do you see? You're asking me a kasha about shaktu. Where do you see that shaktu is a real reason? On that base, we had Shmuel to that svara. But you can't ask kasha from Shmuel on somebody else. Rashi says so. There must be a makar to it in a brisa. So tomorrow the Tanya. We have a brisa that says the svara of shaktu. The Tanya, and once again, shaktu. The time of shaktu is that you have to get married on Wednesday because it takes 3 days to prepare a proper wedding meal. My shaktu, the Tanya. Why is it that we said that a basula should get married on Wednesday? Then correct the brisa. So let a basula marry on Sunday. For Monday. And for the brisa, shaktu chachamim al takanus b'nois Yisrael. Chazal was makbid on the efforts to make a beautiful wedding for B'nai Yisrael. Sheyam Tarech B'Sudo Shloshi Yomim Echad B'Shabbos, Sheni B'Shabbos, Ushlishi B'Shabbos. After preparing for 3 days, Ubervia Koinsa. And on Wednesday, you could be kindness. You make the nesuin for this B'Sulah. It's interesting because nowadays the girl side pays for the wedding. You see clearly from the Gemara that the right party to pay for the wedding is the husband. So it's brought down that just like we buy the chas from different matanos, that the kala pays for the wedding is considered a gift that the kala is giving to the husband. And Eli Stefansky spoke out in the shir, Mechi told me over, that there was a case where right after the wedding they got divorced. I don't know the exact details of the case, but Reb Moshe Paskin that the chassan side has to pay the kala side in full for the cost of the wedding, because that matana wasn't a matana if they were going to be mevatalit by getting a divorce right away, and it's considered a matana, a chassan matana, because meikar the chassan is responsible to pay for the meal. My how times have changed. Zog to Gemara weiter. Even though the takana was that women Basula should get married on Wednesday, from the sakana, and the Gemara is going to explain what this sakana was, but from the time that there was this sakana, people ignored the takana to marry on Wednesday, and they on their own, without asking the shaila, would get married on Tuesday. But the Chachamim didn't stop them, so they obviously had good reason. There was a good reason why the Chachamim didn't change the takana, but there was also a good reason why the Chachamim looked away when people didn't follow the takana. Uvesheni, but that's on Tuesday. On Monday, which is even earlier, they're lo yichnos, which is mashma, even if by the takana lo yichnos. But the machmas oinis, but if an oinis happened, which is not a sakana, it's an oinis, we'll see what that is, then mutter, then you can even get married on a Monday. Umafrishin is a kala, it's a chasam in a kala, lele Shabbos tchila. You don't allow the first bia to occur Friday night. When someone breaks the basulim, it creates a wound that's osra at Shabbos. We do not paskin like this, and we won't get into details on this because the Gemara elaborates on this in a couple of letters. Zogt Gemara my sakana. We said b'shas sakana the olim kafir not to wait till Wednesday, rather to do the marriage on Tuesday. What sakana caused the people to do this? Ilema the army besula nisus liyomer vi tehareg. If it's because the nasty anti-Semitic rulers of the country said that if a girl gets married on Wednesday, she will be killed, nohagu. It's merely that people on their own decided to make the wedding on a different day. Legamri neakre. Their abundance should have been oiker and said it's also to get married on Wednesday. If on Wednesday they're going to kill you, so then they should make it also to get married on a Wednesday. Not people should not listen to the kana. The takana should change. Omar Rabba, that's not what the Gzer was. The Gzer was the Amri Besula Hanisis, the Yomer V, Tivoya Lahegman Tefila. If someone gets married, and it wasn't Dafka Yomer V, the Tosfos tells us it's just Yomer V because that's what it said earlier, but the rule was if a woman gets married, the Duke had a right to live with her first. Rahman al-Islam. Rachmana litzlan. And it's important to note the difference. If there's a gzera, if you get married on Wednesday, we kill you. That's only because we want to break Yiddishkeit. The Goyim wanted to stop Klal Yisrael from following their rules. When it's Tiboy Lehek Tchila, that wouldn't be Dafka on Wednesday, because that's more because of the disgusting tivus of these low-life dukes. And that their taiva is just as strong on Sunday, on Monday, on Tuesday as it is on Wednesday. So they would do it any day. But the issue is, since they knew normally girls got married on Wednesday, they would come to town, they would come from their big castles into the Jewish villages on Wednesdays to grab these girls and violate them. So therefore they made the weddings the day before unofficial so that they wouldn't get caught. Amar Rabba, the Amri Besulai Sanises B'Yomer Biti Boy Lekvutchila. Frank the Gemara, Hi Sakana. That's not Sakana. That makmas Sakana. Oinusu. It's an oinus where they're bringing a new size, but it's not a Sakana. There's no threat of death. Zok Gemara, yes, it could lead to death. You know why? The ikat tznuos, the mosrin of shayla Torah. There are tznuos who they're going to think to themselves that they're going to become nesher to their husbands, and because of that, they'd rather get killed than allow themselves to be violated. And that's why it's called sakana, because these tznuos will let the duke kill them rather than violate them. Freit the Gemara, v'lidrush lahu da'oines shari. Tell them, educate them that if they're nenas by the duke, they will still be mutter to their husbands, and then they won't allow themselves to be killed, and then you can still do it on Wednesdays. So, because there are some girls who aren't as early as they should be, and maybe they're going to enjoy the time that they're violated by the duke. The economic kahanis, and there's also girls who would be married to kahanim who become osir because a kohen whose wife is violated, even if it's an oinus, it's osir. So frek the Gemara, if there's such a problem, Billy Akre. So why didn't the Rabban say we no longer get married on Wednesdays? Why did they just say no hagu not to, but they kept the gzera? So the Gemara, because gzera avida the bottom. This gzera of tiboy lahekman tchila, as horrible as it is, it's eventually going to pass. V'takanta the Rabbanon mekam gzera lo yakrina, and we're not going to uproot the takana of the Rabbanon because of gzera. Frek the Gemara. So what does it help you now if everyone's getting married on Tuesday? So what are you accomplishing by people just changing their wedding date by one day? Zok the Gemara, he doesn't know exactly what day it is. He knows Wednesday is the day. That's when he's going to come to prowl through the villages to grab women. But if he doesn't know, he's not schlepping from his castle to come look around Misofik. So therefore, since they left it unofficial and there's no official date and he never knows when someone's getting married, he's never going to come. He's only going to come if he knows for sure that there's action for him. Zog to Gemara. It says weiter in the Brisa that Uvasheni, even b'makam sakana b'sheni lo yichnois, unless b'makam sa'onis mutter. So the question is, what higher level of threat is there that would allow us to make the wedding not on Tuesday, but even on Monday? My honest, if you're going to say it's the same thing of Tiboy Lagman Chila, it doesn't make sense to say that. Because Hazim Karle Sakana, in the first halacha that we learned, this Tiboy Lagman Chila is referred to as a Sakana. Why would it be referred to with a different word if it's the same scenario? Vesu Hasam Nohagu. There it says Nohagu. They just feared zich to do differently. Hacha mutter, here it says mutter. And Rashi explains this kasha as Nohagu means everybody got married on Tuesday. On Monday, it doesn't say everybody, it just says mutter, meaning if one individual asked the Rav would tell him. So there's a different psak. Tosfos doesn't like Rashi's psak. And Tosfos says, Hasam Nohagu. There, they didn't paskin for people to violate the Gzeira. If people violated, they didn't moicha. But when there's such a sakana, like there is in the second sakana, which we'll get to what it is, there, if you ask the Rav, he will tell you no, but Dad will get married on Monday. So once again, it cannot be the same scenario because there's a different psak involved. I'll tell you what the problem is of machmas oinus. The problem is the Omri Sar Tzava Bolair. The Sar Tzava came to the city, a battalion came to the city, and they're going to eat us at a house and home. So if there's a wedding prepared, you can bet that they're going to sit down by that wedding and eat all the food and ruin the wedding. So that's why instead of getting married on Wednesday, you get married on Monday. I don't understand. If they're going to come and then go, they're passing through, Liakiv, just wait till they leave. But why do you have to change the date of the wedding? When they come, they stay for a considerable amount of time. And therefore, it's not enough to wait till they pass. So, if they come on Wednesday, Begimel Mia Lichnas. So then why make the wedding back to Monday? Just make it back to Tuesday. So, if the officer comes on Wednesday, as Parvati Day, the Secret Service comes to set everything up for him. Begimel also they're going to be there on Tuesday, and therefore on Tuesday there'll be a problem putting out the food for the chasana, and therefore you have to make it on Monday. I want to just go through Tosfos very briefly and very quickly. Tosfos has a kasha. How could you say v'lidrus lahu the oynish shori? How could you say oynish shori? Isn't there a rule that when it comes to znus, yeharag val yavar? So this is gilur rights. So how could they tell these women that if there's an oynish tiboy like with they should do it and they won't be ushered to their husbands? They yeharag val yavar. So there's a machlokes Rabbeinu Tam and Rivam. What halach is? Rabbeinu Tam says a huge chiddush that when it comes to be asura answering a woman and her husband, the bi of a goy doesn't count. And Tosfos says the bilas mitzri doesn't count. The rachmona avkare lazari the mitzri. The Torah was mafker the zera of a goy. Tichsiv v'zir masusim zir mosom. It's like that of an animal. And Tosfos brings a raya from a case where Esther Hamalka allowed herself to be nevelas tachashverosh. And the Gemara asked, how could Esther allow herself to be nevelas tachashverosh? It was before Hesha. Everyone knew about it. Forget the fact that it was before Hesha. It's Gilur Arayis. How could Esther allow herself to be nevelas tachashverosh? It's a hard valyaber. But the Gemara doesn't ask that. The Gemara only asks us before Hesha. So therefore, Rabbeinu Tam brought a raya from here that there's no problem of the bi of a goy, and therefore there's no din yahar gal yavar for the bi of a goy. And if somebody is nevelas to a goy, it wouldn't answer to her husband. And then Rabbeinu Tam took it a step further, and he said he had a major kula. We took kach hit Rabbeinu Tam. Listen to this. Levas Yisrael Shamira. Rachman L'Tlana Bas Yisrael went off to there, and she had relations with a goy. And then they fell in love and they wanted to stay married, and the goy decided he'll become a ger. Really, she's usher because she's usher the baal the boil. She should be usher to this goy. But Rabbeinu Tam said she can stay married to him. She can stay married to that goy after he becomes a ger. And I'm assuming this means she was married to a Jewish man and she was mizana with a goy while she was married to a Jewish man. And now, when he's megayer, she wants to stay with this man. It's also the baal of the boil. Dr. Rabbeinu Tam the l'shayich l'meimer echad l'baal v'echad l'boil the bias mitzri. Since it was a bi of a goy, he's not considered a boil, and therefore when he's megayer, he will be mutter to stay married to her. To have a kabias behema.
But she still has to get divorced from the first husband.
Yes. The nearly Rivam. But the Rivam says, of course not. Avada to be of a goy passes you. And you have a right from our Gemara. Our Gemara says the reason why they have to allow people to get married on Tuesdays is because of the prutzos. What's the big deal about the prutzos? They'll enjoy being nevelas to the goy, but it doesn't answer them to their husbands anyway. So it must be, in fact, that the bi of a goy will answer a woman to her husband. It says Zirma Susum Zirmasam. Zoktoisis, that's referring to the yichus. It means they don't have yichus, their children aren't nisyachas achareim. But avada, it's going to be author. So the reason why.
How does he answer? So how does he answer?
How could we let them live with the Heckman over here?
So how does he for Esther Malka?
Oh, so he answers, the Gemara says, Esther Karka Oilamoisa. She didn't participate. She was lying flat and the guy violated her. The same thing in our Gemara. The reason why Oinish is sorry is because she's not doing anything. She's lying flat and the guy is violating her. So that's the Rivam's shot. It tells Karka Oilam. When a woman is not participating, then she's not usher. The reason why Esther said later B'chasher Avadati Avadati is because all the other times where she had beer with Chashverosh, she lied there flat and the guy violated her. She didn't have anything to do with it, which is exactly what these women did with the Hegman. But once Esther initiated the relationship, she called Achashverosh to the Mishta Yayin, and she wanted to get intimate with him because she needed help. That already was Kasher Avadati. She literally sacrificed her marriage to Mordechai by bringing Achashverosh upon her, and there it was not Karka. And in fact, she became awesome. She sacrificed everything to save Klal Yisrael. And that takes us to the end of the daf. What a beautiful daf it was. I want to wish everybody a good tavach, a good bench tavach, a mazel tavach, a simcha tavach, and we should.
I get a mazel tov. I had a near Heineken today.
Oh, mazel by who?
By Brandy.
Very nice. Mazel tov, mazel tov. She lost Yiddish nachas. You should be zoiche to dance by the chassan.
Amen. Amen.
You should lead all the Heineken Greek Mashiach. Mamash. We used to have a Mashulach who came every Parshas Chukas to Philadelphia Yeshiva. And every year he said the same word. He would say, "Vi started in the Torah, a matunish adorach furin a red light." And he would always say, "Vayomer Edoin, loy saverbi." That was his word. He said over every year. So I remember it. Ever since then, I remember that word. Okay, I get the vach, everybody.
I get the vach.
Mazel tov.
Malat Martin.
Meshashem.